Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Surfer's Journey. Today's episode is all about how do you actually catch an unbroken wave. How do you make that transition from catching the whitewater to catching an unbroken wave? It's a challenging step, but it's one that's worth making. And guys, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe now so you can stay up to date with all of my latest videos and tutorials. And remember, you can also follow us on Instagram at The Surfer's Journey. But for now, let's get into today's lesson of the week. Riding your first unbroken wave will be a feeling that you never forget. And the difference between catching whitewater and an unbroken wave really doesn't need to be that hard. And I'm going to break down step by step how you make that transition from the whitewater to an unbroken wave like this. Now, the first thing to understand is that you don't have to go out the back where you can't stand up straight away. You can go to waist deep water, just a little bit past the whitewater, and try and catch unbroken waves just like this. They're smaller and they're more forgiving, and they'll give you the perfect opportunity to start to get comfortable with the differences. We're going to talk about how you get into these waves and what you have to do next. As you can see here, the waves in this session were only knee to waist high, but that was more than enough to have a good time on. So the first thing you want to focus on is that when you paddle into unbroken waves, you want to give yourself enough time to actually paddle into that wave and get enough momentum and speed to stand up. You also want to make sure that you paddle in on an angle. As you can see here, my board is angled at almost 45 degrees. This will ensure that by the time you stand up and take off, you're already heading along the wave and you've already got that direction set. If you take off straight on unbroken waves, that's a little bit harder because once you take off, then you have to turn to get going along the wave. Especially when it's small and fast, it's going to be much harder and often you'll get caught behind the wave. So by paddling in on an angle, you're already going to be going along the wave once you stand up and get going. Of course, you have to be careful not to overcook this and go too far on the angle. You can see on this wave here that I was paddling almost parallel to the wave, and this put me into a bad position and the wave ran off without me. So I already mentioned that you should give yourself enough time to develop enough speed to take off on a wave. You can see here I've been paddling for a long time to get my speed up and I'm still going so that I could take off early. By taking off early before the wave's actually broken, this is much easier. If you take off late, the wave's almost breaking as you take off, and often this is where surfers will nosedive at this point in their careers. So what you want to do is make sure that you get in early. This means that you stand up before the wave's too steep, and I can almost guarantee that this will increase your success rate as you're transitioning into taking off on those unbroken waves. So now that we've figured out the kind of waves you want to catch, and we figured out how we're actually going to catch these waves, what do we do once we're up and riding? Well, because we've already paddled in on an angle, we're already going down the line of that wave. But the next step is to look where we're going. So we are looking down the wave because that's where we want to go. And you can see that consequently the weight has already shifted onto my heels in this case, just by looking. And the next step is to rotate your body and point in that direction. And what you do from here is up to you. You can stand and relax, or you can start to think about performing small turns on that wave. Once you're up and riding on a wave, it's totally up to you as to how you express yourself and how you surf on that wave. Of course, there are similar principles when it comes to turning a surfboard, but in regards to what you actually do, well, that's totally up to you. But as long as you're having fun, that's the only thing that matters. Once you've built up your confidence catching waves from the waist deep water where you can stand, well, the next progression is to go out a little bit further, a little bit deeper. And that's where we can learn to sit on our board and catch waves from out the back. And all the same principles apply from out here. The only difference is that you can't touch the bottom anymore. This can be a little bit daunting for some surfers, but I'd highly recommend that you make these steps gradually. Go to beaches where the back isn't that far out. For example, on this day, it was only about 50 meters from shore, but there are other days where the waves are breaking hundreds of meters out to sea, and that can be a scary thing for surfers who are just getting out there. So I would recommend making those steps small and gradual. To start turning your surfboard on an unbroken wave, all we're looking at doing is looking and pointing in different directions and making our weight transition from our heel to our toe accordingly. And we also use a blend of compression and extension to perform our maneuvers. But in the early days, just make tiny changes in direction like this. It doesn't have to be much more than that. Start small when you're learning how to turn. Small changes in direction, small changes in weight distribution. And use the principles of turning: looking, leaning, rotating, and compression and extension. We discuss this more in other videos on our YouTube channel, so check those out after this if you're interested. Guys, thanks for watching the video today. I hope that now you know what you need to do to transition from catching a whitewater wave to catching an unbroken wave. Once you make that move and you start catching unbroken waves, a whole new world of opportunity awaits you. Remember to like the video and comment below to let me know what other videos you'd like to see. Thanks guys, I'll catch you in the water. The Surfer's Journey now has a range of apparel available, from beanies to t-shirts to hats and coffee cups. For more information on how you can place your order, email thesurfersjourney@gmail.com. Be sure to visit The Surfer's Journey and check out some of our other videos, surfing tutorials from point of view, from the air and from the beach, and detailed, honest board reviews. You can also follow us on Instagram where we post hints and tips.